War Eagle War Report family, I'm your host, C Dub. With latest incoming transfer, Morris Joseph, coming to Auburn, we turn our attention to the defensive line and edge rusher positions today. We'll discuss who we expect to break out at those positions, how productive that positions will be, and what we can expect in the upcoming season. All that and more in today's weekend tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
Happy Sunday. Welcome to the latest and greatest weekend tailgate, brought to you by show sponsor Athletic Architects. In the new age of NIL, Athletic Architects help student athletes and their parents build their house by preparing them for future financial success. So if you are a student athlete or a parent of a student athlete or know a student athlete, please encourage them to visit buildthehouse.com. Also, want to shout out all of you watching with us, whether it's live or on replay. We appreciate you guys. You know what to do. I say it all the time. Just need you to do it. Share this video on social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, using hashtag Get Your Weight Up so people can find our content and we can continue to build this army, this family, this community. Speaking of which, you need to become a patron if you're not already. Ike is here to tell you why, because we got some stuff coming.
What month is it? Can somebody remind me what month it is?
I believe it's the one after April and the one before June, which will make sense.
I told y'all the month of May. You know what? I get tired. I get weary of trying to warn people the month of May was going to begin something special. It's all good. For those of you who have faith in Ike Jones, your faith is being rewarded with all of the dope content that we are dropping out there for you. But $5.99 gets you to patron level. $3.99 gets you to supporter level. You know what happens when you come on board when Ike Jones tells you, hey, man, we got stuff coming up. You guys need the month of May. You know what happens when you do that? You get access to really dope things that the War Report is doing. Stuff like, I don't know, interviews with the head coach of the football team, stuff like that, because we're doing it. We did it. And you guys who are members are going to get a chance to get first dibs on hearing that interview. Myself and Mike G sat down with Coach Harsin, and he gave us a two-part interview that will be live for members starting tomorrow, and some film breakdown stuff that will be patron only. Somebody
are you telling me
what month it is? Somebody tell me what month it is.
Ike Jones, are you telling me that you and Mike G sat down with the head coach of Auburn football and had him break down football film with us here at the War Report?
That's like verbatim what I'm telling you right now, that's happening. And if you are a patron, you will get access to that film breakdown that we did. We sat and talked to him about quarterback play during the A-Day game. You will also get early access as any member of the War Report to both parts 1 and 2 when they come out of that conversation with Coach Bryan Harsin. We got more on that. Anyway, it's the month of May. I told y'all in April. Okay. Anyway, the Lee County Humane Society, also, if you would like to be a part of what we got going on, you can donate money there. The link is to the GoFundMe is in our About section. You can also go over to our website, thewarreport.com, and you can check us out over there. Click that link. 50 cents on every dollar goes to hashtag Save All the Puppies. Just any and everybody can get on board with this. All you got to do is hashtag Get Your Weight Up. You can get yourself entered into a drawing for an AU t-shirt, We'll be doing that drawing later on. You got to be present. The last few times, you know, some people kind of came in, they did what they were supposed to do with the hashtag, but then they didn't stick around to actually claim their merchandise. We want to make sure you're here. Got to be present to win. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. That drawing will be going on later. If you didn't know already, the Auburn Express is the new name of the War Reports podcast. Make sure you are checking that out daily. More content coming to the Auburn Express. I get tired of warning y'all that we're going to do stuff, and then y'all don't believe me. When I say we're going to do... But yeah, the Auburn Express is where you can go to get podcast exclusive content that is coming to you all. I promise. We got more stuff coming down the way. All right. Do we want to go ahead and run the video, or we want to wait and do that in the mid roll? Like
we can run it before we move. Before we get to that, though, I want to give a special shout out to our title sponsor, Athletic Architects. They're our new Sunday sponsor. If you're looking to get a business set up, they can help you get your LLC started. So they're working with athletes. I appreciate them coming on as a sponsor. Things like the Bryan Harsin interview and all these things that we got going on, they're happening because you guys watch and because companies like Athletic Architects have decided to make the decision to support us. So buildthehouse.com, please go check them out, guys. There are a ton of reasons. And if you want some good reasons to open up a pass-through, those guys can walk you through that. They can show you how to do it, or they can do it all for you if you got the cheese to spend on that. So Athletic Architects, making things happen. But interview, yes, I think go ahead and roll that. He was very gracious with his time. I can't stress enough how gracious with his time he was. I was very impressed with Bryan Harsin, the coach and the person. But go ahead and roll that. Let's give him a little sneak peek.
Speaking of cultural things, one of the things about the culture that we've noticed is you all seem to have a concerted thing about trying to create competition amongst the team, right? Like whether it's just going out and doing things like paintball, right? Like there's a competitive spirit that seems to be there within the facility.
You go back to paintball, I think there was a competitive spirit amongst the players. I think there was a mean spirit from the players towards the coaches. All right, I'll just say that.
Here's the big one that I know everybody wants to talk about, and that is the competition at kicker. No,
that's right.
Yeah. Everybody wants to know about the quarterback position, of course, because that's always the marquee position.
Well, I actually did want to talk about the kickers.
Hey, listen, we can talk about it.
Okay, Coach, I got to put you on the spot here. Who's the fastest guy on this team right now?
You know, I'm going to say something, and I'll be just absolutely wrong, and I'm going to get blasted for it.
Who's the lockdown defensive back on this team you compete with the most going up against? Jay looked right in the camera, Coach, and said, honestly, guys, it doesn't matter who lines up there.
But you know what? You probably ask one of those guys on the defensive side. They're like, yeah, just pick one. We'll lock him down.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah,
that was a real thing. That happened.
Bryan Harsin is a funny dude.
Yeah,
he's actually a funny guy, and we spent some time off camera talking, as we do with all our interviews, and I feel pretty good about the direction of this. I feel very good about the direction of this program after talking to the head coach ourselves. He's not an easy guy to get to. They're working really hard on the recruiting trail right now. So even though it's off season, finding holes in his schedule to get this done was just like the one time he was in town before he headed back out on the road to either do a speaking event or, talk to recruits or, all the different things they have going on this off season. So I feel like a lot of the interviews we've done with current players, all the feedback they gave us was just confirmed by this interview that we did with him. So big shout out to Auburn Football and Coach Bryan Harsin for taking some time to sit down with us. Like Ike said, it's a 2-part interview. If you're a patron, you get both parts and a film review tomorrow. If you're not a patron, Thursday, you'll get part 1 and part 2 whenever we feel like it.
Yeah. to emphasize Ike's sentiments, we're not a game, right?
Yeah.
So stop playing with us.
And
stop
hold on.
playing with us.
And in the words of the infamous meme, we ain't done yet.
Yeah, there's more.
I keep trying to tell y'all, man. Like I don't know how many warnings I have to give you to say we're not playing around. And I told you it was starting in May. We gave you Derek Brown. And y'all was like, oh, that's cute. Okay. Now we just dropped Coach Harsin. Okay. All right. I got no warnings left. This is the last time I'm warning you. This is it.
Who's left to get, man? We got the AD, the best defensive player in the last 10 years, the head coach now.
Don't worry about all that.
Who else is there left to get?
There's plenty of people left for us to talk to, man. Don't worry about that, man.
Hey, we are not a game yet again.
Not a game.
Yeah.
We'll practice.
Anyway, let's get into it, guys. We've teased this long enough. Before we get into it, I do want to acknowledge Big Gap 78. This is kind of a line. He says, awesome accomplishment, War Report Bros, War Eagle, back to you. We appreciate, man, you guys hanging out with us and supporting us. It allows us to be able to have these type of interviews. So we appreciate you guys doing what you do, and let's keep the momentum going for sure. Let's pivot and begin to discuss the transfer portal. You know, with spring practice behind us, we're in this dead period leading into fall camp. The transfer portal has become the talk. Who's Auburn going to get? And during the end or towards the end of our last live, Auburn actually announced a commitment for the defensive line. And that actually became Morris Joseph. We talked about him a little bit, but we didn't have a lot of time to do our homework on him and get some information for you guys to really go kind of in depth. But here he is, Morris Joseph. He is 6'2", 275 pounds. He played 10 games and started 9 games at Memphis last year. He recorded 38 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss. He had 1.5 sacks and has a year of eligibility remaining. Joseph joins former Miami receiver Dline Worsham and former Iowa State safety Craig McDonald as the latest portal transfers to commit to Auburn in recent weeks. This guy actually, when I looked him up, he actually graded out as the best defensive lineman last year at Memphis per Pro Football Focus. He did really good and was pretty decent or sound in terms of rush defense. So given his size, given what his skill set appears to be, I'm speculating, Ike, you know, you can kind of give your opinions. This guy strikes him as kind of like a 2 technique kind of guy, perhaps. So I see him more so on the interior. But this was a position that apparently was a position of need for Auburn. It was kind of announced that one of the areas that Auburn was looking at since signing Craig McDonald and Dline Worsham, they were possibly looking at another receiver and someone for the defensive line. So this fills that needed defensive line. And we kind of talked about it, Mike, and Ike, we talked about it last week, but B, you hopped off, I think, by that point. Based on what you see here, we'll talk about some of the portal moves that have been made at this position because there's been a lot of movement. But your initial reaction when you saw that Morris Joseph was announced as coming to Auburn?
My initial reaction was, I didn't know we were in the market for another defensive lineman. We ran down the defensive line roster about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I was like, that's a lot of guys. That is a lot of defensive linemen. At least 3 of them I know had started before, had starting experience. So I didn't think that we were fishing for somebody with more experience. But I mean, you look at his productivity, and those stats were just for last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's great for a defensive lineman because from the interior, you're not really supposed to rack up sacks. So you get a sack and a half from the interior. You're doing a good job. especially being that, like, yeah, he's supposed to be a run defender. 275 is a little light, all right, for the line, but he's coming from Memphis. I don't know how quickly he can get on campus. I know that they start their summer workout the same way they preempt spring practice by a workout program. They preempt fall camp with a workout program too, and I think that starts. Is it late May or mid June? I'm not sure exactly where. We'd have to get some.
I think it's going to be mid June. They start him.
Okay, so he's gonna have to get some weight on.
Actually, no, it might be late May. Sorry, yeah, it might be late May.
Okay, yeah, I see Corey Weber said this right when I was thinking it too. Yeah, that sounds light for an interior lineman, but they're gonna have to put some weight on him. So he's got about 3 months to get beefed up. To get in. Really, he's not gonna be trying to put on weight in the middle of fall camp. So really, he's got about 2 months to get in shape for that position. Productive in the AAC is not necessarily being built to be productive in the SEC. I think we all acknowledge that. But now I think I'm more comfortable with you've got the staff that you trust. They are identifying talent. We're not even filling roles from a position of extreme need like we were this time last year. Like moving Pegues to the defensive line was extreme need because we had just lost Jeremiah Wright. Now we've got enough guys to fill the defensive line. As a matter of fact, I didn't think we were in need, but they go and get another one. To me, it's a comfort piece more than an emergency piece. And I think that that's a positive in a way that we weren't this comfortable at a position, just to be able to add a guy and say, I like you. And what we know about Coach Harsin means we're checking out his character, his work ethic, his productivity, and we're saying it's a go. So you add a piece like that, it's nothing but positive. So I like it.
Let's look at, in researching this, we've had a lot of movement at this position. And let's kind of take a look at what has transpired since the season ended and in this off season. From this position alone, we had Ian Matthews, who is listed as, and I know he kind of wavered a lot, but he, as reported, is committed to Missouri. Not sure what he's done since then. Didn't bother to look into it. Best wishes to the man. JJ Pegues is at Ole Miss. Lee Hunter is at UCF. Daniel Foster Allen is at South Alabama, and Dre Butler went to Liberty. And that kind of created an area of concern from a depth perspective. And it made defensive line, even though we had a lot of talent there, it made it become a position of need. Well, coming in, we have Jason Jones out of Oregon, Morris Joseph from Memphis. And what we talked about recently was Marquise Robinson, who went into the portal but decided to return. So he's listed as one of the ones transferring in, even though he decided to remain at Auburn. So what does this all mean in terms of our roster? And to B's point, I agree. I felt pretty good about the defensive line even prior to Morris Joseph committing to Auburn. But here's what we look like now. And the guys that I'm not going to mention everyone, but you have Zeke Walker, you have Colby Wooden, Marcus Harris, you have Tebeki, who, I've heard decent things about, Marquise Burks. You got Thanos there. You got Jason Jones. I'm not expecting to see much of a Nietzsche Sledge this year. I think they'll definitely redshirt him, and he'll get acclimated to get in the strength and conditioning program, learn the playbook, learn the college level. Marquise Robinson, I'm curious to see what he does, but there's Morris Joseph. This guy has 1 year of eligibility remaining. I want to spend some time talking about this group right here. We'll talk about the edge rushers later on, but with this guy having a year left of eligibility, there has to be expectations that this coaching staff feels that they can use this guy. And one of the things that I know, Mike G, you have pointed out time and time again is not only just roster management, but talent evaluation. And what do you think this guy's role, what do you expect this guy's role to be in the upcoming season, given that he only has 1 year of eligibility remaining?
I think this is about the depth piece. You bring a guy in who has talent, and experience. So he brings immediate on-field experience. And they're going to rotate a bunch of guys on D-line. So you're going to have to stay fresh. Depending on how our offense does this year, he might need to rotate a lot of guys to stay fresh. So I think this is primarily just about depth. At the end of the day, you can never have enough guys because injuries happen to primary players. Look at Owen, the year Owen had last year. Just consistently hurt. One of our best players on defense, but consistently hurt. So these guys, it's an easy sell, I think, to playing time, that even if a guy isn't starting, that he's going to get significant time on the field. And these guys know, man, attrition through injury is a thing in college football. We experienced it last year at different positions. And if you could convince a kid to come here and play what I would call like a complimentary piece, or just a role. He's part of a unit, man. He's a cog in a machine, and they all need each other. So I think a lot of fans mistakenly think of these kids as, just superstar. Like everybody who comes in has to be a superstar or a main guy. I mean, you have positional pieces that you could bring in, role players, and everybody's got a role to play, especially on defense. We've seen that with Auburn over the last, I don't know how many years. It's just we've been extremely deep and rotated a lot of guys on the defensive line. So I think his role, even with a year left, it's just clear with that much experience, he's going to see the field. I think he'll see the field. Now, it may say something about how they feel about the development of some of the younger guys, but those guys have time. Bring in pieces that you feel like can compete. He knew the situation. He knows the situation when he came here. There is talent on that D-line, so he knows what he's in for. I think this is just a depth piece.
Gotcha. I want to pose this question, Ike. Let you get in here. This is actually a question from Lawrence Robinson. Appreciate you hanging out with us, homie. Good luck later on with the drawing, of course. So I'm rooting for you. He asked, "Does Mba crack the rotation this season?" What are your thoughts about Mba, given the depth we have already?
Yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, I don't see any reason why not. Apparently he's relatively raw, right? Like he hasn't been playing football for a long time, but he's got all the physical attributes. We're going to talk a little bit about the edge rusher position today, but I see him as someone who could possibly slide out to the edge. When we think edge, like we automatically think pass rusher, right? And so he has the speed clearly to be a pass rusher. A lot of that is technique as well, but setting the edge is more than rushing the passer, right? It's being able to do that in the run game as well. So when we're on, early downs and we want people who can set the defensive edge as far as run is concerned, you're going to need bigger body guys to do that. So it's not just being able to get to the passer consistently. You want some guys who on obvious passing situations are going to go be hunting the quarterback, right? But you also want people who can set the edge defensively in the run game and make sure that, speed sweeps and stuff bounces to the outside doesn't happen. And they have the strength to be able to overpower that offensive tackle, tight end, running back, cracking, wide receiver crackdown. So I think we have the guys who can do that on this defensive line. When you talk about Morris Joseph, he's a guy who could play defensive end in a large front, right? And we don't have to go to some sort of special package. And he has the ability to come in. What it allows us to do, and this is something that I always am in favor of, is be multiple without having to do a lot of substitutions. Kobe Wooden was a guy who did that for us last year. He would slide inside, outside. He would be all over the defensive line. And they want to be able to do that so that if they're running different games up front, or if they're trying to give different looks to defenses, they don't have to substitute to do that. But when they do sub, they don't lose productivity or the ability to stay that multiple. To the question of Mba, I think that he will get an opportunity this season, especially in the early games, because he's been hurt, just to see what it's like for him at this level. And whether or not he's going to be able to contribute later in the season, that's going to be determined by how those first couple of games go.
I want to revisit and look at this list again. I want to talk about Kobe Wooden. There he is up towards the top at junior. He decided to come back and obviously had the best defensive grade of any defensive lineman last year, was very productive last year for Auburn. He had 41 tackles. He had, I believe, 26 hurries on the quarterback, 8 hits, had 7 sacks. Very, very disruptive presence up front for Auburn. He definitely will be the leader of that defensive line. Him coming back was major for us. We know how special he is, but B, I want you to jump in here and talk about how crucial he's going to be for this defense as a leader, as a disruptor up front. How important is he going to be to this defense next year?
I mean, Wooden is the reason. Him coming back was the reason I calmed down immediately about defections. We saw a lot of people jumping in the portal once the season ended, and it was, some of it was, dramatic, and some of it wasn't. For some guys, you could tell it was playing time. Obviously, they didn't get a lot of burn. Some of it may have swayed between culture fit and playing time, depending on the guy. But I was worried that Wooden was going to get out of here. I mean, not knowing anything about him or what he thought, but so many people were leaving. Once he said he was coming back, okay, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right, because if Wooden's on the inside and Marcus Harris is on the inside, we're going to be okay. We don't have to worry about too much else. Derek Hall coming back was huge. Echo Leota still being here is huge. Our front four, and that's me just kind of projecting right now, because I don't know who they're going to start. Jason Jones could start the interior. They got some options there, really, because like you were saying, you could put Wooden on the outside of some plays. I mean, we got some options here, and that's really the best thing. It gave us versatility, it gave us stability, but also, as I like to think about guys who have, I'm gonna give you one last year type years, what's coming up, because I'm sure he got some feedback on his draft grade and decided I could do a little better than that. Good, because I think you can do better than that. I don't know how you get 7 sacks on this defense, on a defense that didn't really try to pressure the quarterback that much, and you say I can do better. Cool. Because now I'm excited. Now I think you come down with double-digit sacks. We were doing facts and all leading up to the season last year. I thought Kobe Wooden would come down with double-digit sacks. I'm a little surprised he didn't get there, but some of it was what they were asking them to do up front, so I understand. But he is the stabilizing force, in my opinion. Marcus Harris putting on a little weight to go with that quick first step he has is the other thing that I really, really want to see in action this year. I think our front, as good as it was for the majority of the season, our front four, our defensive line has a chance to be really, really good. Derek Hall in a similar way, being I could have left. I was productive, but I think I can do a little better and make myself some more money. Echo Leota as well. I think he would be draft eligible after this season. That entire front is playing for their pockets right now. And I hope that is as much of a motivational force as anything else is, to have the best season possible. And so much experience, man. They went through this hard time with the transition, all of those guys, Kobe included, and they chose to stay. And we've spoken on this show about what that says about the coach. There's a lot of whispers. Oh man, all these people left. The coach must be terrible. Yeah, people also chose to stay. And the vast majority of the people who left, it's not like they went on to bigger and better programs or more winning programs. A lot of them have to take steps down, and I do think that says something, at least about the fit here. And maybe we were thinking too much about who left out of here. You know what I'm saying? So we are in a very good position with Wooden kind of heading up that group with experience, and I'm looking forward to a big year from the defensive line.
And that's pretty much what my question was, and something to note. Just looking at Pro Football Focus in terms of tackles, hurries, whatnot, the production that returns from last year, Auburn returns about 75% of its production. When you look at guys who contributed, like Tony Fair, Dre Butler, JJ Pegues. Pegues actually was putting up some numbers as the season went on, and he was figuring out what he was doing. But a good bit of our production returns. And so with that experience, this defensive line has the potential to be really, really good. Lawrence actually says collectively we might have the best defensive line in the conference. A lot of guys on our defensive line has made contributions at some point.
Yeah, I would also like to point out that a lot of the exits that we've seen have been from guys who had not or were not going to contribute, and they're replacing those guys with people who have a chance to contribute immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the freak out about, we lost. I think that now, Ike and I were talking about it. If you take Javarius Johnson out because he got in the portal and came back, we had 20 guys enter the portal. I think this is like the 8th guy we brought in. So that makes us like net 12 portal losses. And it's not that, that's under the conference average. That's under the conference average for guys, for how many people are losing.
Do you know what that average is, by the way, Mike?
It was like 10 or 11, right?
Okay.
Like I'm sorry, it was like 13 or 14 is what it was. Guys, people are losing folks to the portal left and right, and we're not done. So a lot of folks are complaining that we're not getting this in the portal or that in the portal, or this guy isn't highly rated enough. When you go and you look at 247, if you look at their portal list, there are not a ton of offensive linemen for the 2022 cycle. I think there were less than 20 offensive linemen in the portal. It wasn't a ton. There's not a lot of availability, and all but one of those guys is committed somewhere already. So there's not a lot to go after in terms of offensive line. They're going to have to solve that puzzle through recruiting. But defensively, there was a lot more available. We have scholarships available. I think we were like maybe 10 or 11 under the limit. Bring guys in who have a chance to contribute now. And I think it's fun. If you look at D-line, you look at a guy like Joseph coming in, and a guy like Lee Hunter, who didn't play anything, going out.
Yeah.
I think that's a great substitution for us.
Yeah.
We don't know how Lee Hunter projected. I know there was a lot of hype around him.
Yeah.
But I also know the things I heard about him as well, too. So, and they weren't good.
Yeah. And I think I appreciate you mentioning that, Mike, because people keep saying, well, what about O-line? What about O-line? What about O-line? Well, there's not much to choose from.
It's not,
out of the portal.
Like O-line is the thinnest position in the portal since the inception of the portal. It's really hard to find O-linemen through the portal. And for the few that are actually worth a damn, the competition is fierce. Everybody wants O-linemen. Everybody.
Yeah.
So they still need time to catch up. I think in establishing us as a premier destination for O-linemen, we have time to do that, but they got to hit the recruiting trail. I'm seeing a lot of buzz in the recruiting trail about O-linemen right now. So if we're taking this route with defensive line, and we can find a way through recruiting to beef up O-line, that's the foundation of your football team right there in the trenches.
Yeah.
Arsenal's trying to rebuild it.
Before we get to the break, I do want to point out this comment from Rand. Appreciate you hanging out with us, man. Said Jason Jones had decent numbers, better than Harris, and he's 6'6", 320. Hoping he can be a dog up front. What are y'all? How excited are you about this guy in terms of what he can do?
I'm super excited about it, man.
Okay.
I think Jason Jones is going to be very versatile up front for us. He is, by all accounts, he's difficult to move up there, man. Like he's a big dude. He's going to be eating up blockers. If anybody should be excited, it should be our linebackers that Jason Jones is up front, because he's just going to be a guy that is he's going to just, when he gets there in the middle, somebody's going to have to deal with him. Probably more than one person, which means that there's going to be other guys that are going to get freed up. You talk about the productivity that we had already with Marcus Harris and Colby Wooden. So the natural tendency is going to be, all right, well, let's double team one of those guys, right? I don't know if that's a good proposition with Jason Jones in the middle. I don't know if that's great, because he's a big dude. He's a big dude, and he's probably more nimble than you assume. Like, he's not going to be Aaron Donald in the middle, but he's gonna definitely be a guy who he can definitely be, just a run stopper, a guy who is gonna have to be dealt with in the run game specifically. So that means that those other guys are gonna be free to just eat when it comes to the run game. So you're going to see their productivity increase just because Jason Jones exists in the middle, and he's going to move around a lot up front. So definitely looking forward to what he's going to do this coming season.
Indeed. Let's go ahead and get to the halfway point. But before we get there, guys, be sure to get the thumbs up, guys, and like this video. Show us some love and help get our engagement going. We appreciate it greatly. We appreciate your support of the War Report. Let's acknowledge some sponsors of the War Report who's been supporting us as well.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Definite thank you to all of our sponsors. We appreciate them for what they do to help make sure we can continue to do the things that we do here at the War Report as well. Thank everybody in the chat with the green names. The green name means that you have decided that you're going to put a little money every month towards helping make sure we can continue to bring you very dope, exclusive, one-of-a-kind content here at the War Report. If you are a supporter or a patron of the War Report, we thank you, and we are rewarding you tomorrow with early access to just, an interview with the man, Coach Harsin. We got him to sit down with us, part 1, part 2, and a little patron-only film breakdown happening tomorrow. For the members, patrons, you get that breakdown specifically for you all. So $5.99 per month is not a lot to be able to get access to that stuff. If you're not a member, we definitely are still going to release some of this content to you. You're still going to get the interview. But if you want that film breakdown session, you've got to become a patron to be able to do that. Supporting the channel in other ways can happen if you want to support us as well as support the Lee County Humane Society. You can do that by hitting the GoFundMe link. 50 cents on every dollar goes towards that. That can be found in the About section of our YouTube channel as well as on our website. You can go to thewarreport.com to be able to do that. Today, we are giving away more merch. We do it every day that we are live on the War Report. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services is who sponsors this. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. You can win yourself an AU t-shirt. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. Have to be present when we pull your name in order to win. If you don't, we will definitely move on to the next person. We are powered by the War Report is the Auburn Express on all podcast platforms. So you all make sure that you go to your podcast platform of choice and you go listen to some great content. We've got pod exclusive content that we're dropping for you all out there. And, one of our major contributors to all things that we do here specifically today is Athletic Architects. So we're just going to drop a little something on y'all for that, and then we'll get back into the show.
Young athletes need the tools for success on the field and on the court. And now more than ever, in the arena of business. In the new era of name, image, and likeness, Athletic Architects is here for young athletes and parents to help prepare for your financial futures. Let Athletic Architects start helping you build your house. Visit BuildTheHouse.com and let's build.
Hey, Athletic Architects. Go check them out. Get your LLC started today. Our guy Jacob over there is doing some great things. He's going to be helping athletes, young athletes, so high school athletes, college athletes, get prepared. It's funny, in talking to Coach Harsin and some other people around NIL, a lot of these young people are getting a wake-up call about taxes and other things that come with suddenly getting a bunch of money. So you need the infrastructure put together to take care of that stuff. Athletic Architects is helping them get that done. So big shout to them.
You're muted, C.
I realize that. Yeah, appreciate it. let's get back into it and address some questions that you guys are asking in the comments. We appreciate you guys again hanging out with us, commenting, and even talking to us. Man, I remember those days when we were just 2 or 3 of y'all. But I appreciate you guys just hanging out with us on a Sunday. Philip Coleman wants to know, guys, do we think Aniche Sledge is going to get some burn when he comes in? And I kind of already alluded to it a little bit earlier. I personally think he's redshirting, but I want to hear from you guys what you think will happen with Aniche Sledge in 2022.
You know what? I think they would find a spot for him to get some burn. If we've seen the guys who come in and play by the coach's rules, if you're committed, if you're on top of things academically, you're on schedule, you're following the program, they're going to find some room for you. We didn't think anybody was going to get a lot of burn. I think we saw Elijah Canyon not play last year. It was like, okay, so what has to happen for this guy to get some play? But we did see Landon King get some burn. Why? Came in, head down, stuck to the rules and got on the field and saw some significant playing time, including a couple touchdowns. So I think it's up to him. It's really up to him. I mean, no matter who's on the defensive line, I don't think there's ever a situation where you don't need a guy at his size if he is up to snuff, if he is physically capable, mentally prepared to do execute whatever the game plan is. So I think it's up to him. Now, I don't think he ends up a starter or anything like that, but yeah, definitely. I think it's possible for him to get in here and get some playing time, whether it's the first 5 games where we got some room for it or even later. I mean, because, hey, attrition is a real thing. I mean, Mike talked about that earlier. We're going to lose somebody. Somebody's going to go down for some reason. I mean, we hope not, but having somebody in there who has gotten some snaps early and is mentally prepared to contribute, yeah, that'd be great. So I think it's up to him, but I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, see if he plays in 4 of those 5 games early outside of Penn State and then they shelf him. I would not be surprised.
Any other different thoughts, guys?
I think it's likely that he will redshirt this season. We've got enough bodies up there, unless he is just like some amazing stud athlete that just you can't not put him on the field. I think they're going to try to get him to develop a little bit more before rushing him out there. We've got enough bodies to be able to do that. He might, hopefully he'll see some time in some of these, cupcake games early though.
Yeah.
Got it. Let's kind of pick up, but we're still talking about Auburn's attack up front on the defensive side of the ball. We've talked pretty extensively about defensive linemen. Let's in the last time we talked about it, I think it was Marquise Robinson was kind of the storyline, and we gave a listing of the guys up front, and people were saying, "Hey, we're the edge guys. We're the edge guys," and we were like, "We're going to treat them a little separately from the defensive line." Of course, they are considered defensive line depending on the alignment, but let's talk about them today, shall we? Here are the guys listed at edge position. You have, of course, Hayden Bryce, Derek Hall, Dylan Brooks, and Aku Leota. This is a pretty intriguing position because obviously Derek Hall and Aku Leota were your highest guys who had the highest grades per Pro Football Focus last year who are returning. But something to note is that this position is losing some significant production with TD Moultrie exhausting his eligibility and Romello Height transferring to USC. And so when you think about Derek Hall and Aku Leota, based on what B mentioned earlier, these guys they decided to come back, but they're really trying to put something significant on film. They have aspirations of playing at the next level, could be perhaps playing at the next level currently, but they really want to do something special this year to shoot up draft boards to really make an impact. Kind of talk about how important this year is for these 2 individuals, Mike G.
Edge is I'm excited. I'm excited about Edge. I've been on record of saying that I'm really excited about Dylan Brooks. Yeah. So you've got Derek Hall up there, you've got Aku Leota, so you've got 2 proven commodities up there. But Dylan Brooks has a chance, like this whole defense has a chance to just what they're building on defenses right now, we talked about the D-line transfer, is that you don't get a break. You may not get a break when we sub guys in and out of the game. This was a very highly rated kid, man, and he's flown under the radar. Like nobody's talking about what a cool was that we got him from Tennessee last year. He took the time to catch his body up in terms of strength and conditioning, so he should be at an SEC level of fitness. And he's got a chance to just go out there and show some things. A lot of people are basing their view of what they saw only on what they were able to see. There were a lot of kids that didn't hit the field that were still developing last year. And early in the season, in the 2 cupcakes we have, I hope to get a chance to see them go out there. And, pressure on the quarterback is going to be key to keeping our DBs from being on an island or disrupting the pocket. So QBs cannot just sit back there and carve us up.
Yep.
The edge guys are going to be really important. I feel like we have sufficient talent at that position. And we're going to see what that development piece looks like in year 2 of the Bryan Harsin regime. So it's not always about all these stars and things, man. It's just about, hey, man, can you take a guy? Can you coach him up? Can you make him understand what his job is? Can he retain that information? And then can he go out there and execute? That's coaching. We're going to find out this fall more. Last year was not a good indication, I think, of what this coaching staff can do. I don't think year 1 really, based on what they inherited, you could draw too many judgments from what we saw on the field. We saw inconsistencies because that's what they inherited, an inconsistent program. And I'm not faulting them because they couldn't work all that out of the system in one season. Now, the excuses have to start to fall away a little bit. And this will be one of those things where we need to see this Bryan Harsin guy, Dylan Brooks, step in and look like the next coming of. So with Zacoby gone and some of the guys who were really good, you mentioned TD Moultrie, some of the edge guys. Derek Hall coming back, great. The Eku Leota pickup, people forget, man, transfer from Northwestern. And now you have a kid who is coming up in your system. Wasn't ready-made somewhere else, just add water. Here's an edge rusher. This was a kid that you trained and developed. I really want to see what these guys are going to do. Defensively, we were very, very close to something special. There were a couple pieces that they couldn't figure out. They didn't get any help from the offensive side of the ball and a lot of the losses. And this year, I think that this defense is stacked with not only physical talent, but guys who mentally can understand and process the game at a high level. Dylan Brooks is going to be one of those kids.
Well, I mean, he's got some production to replace. Just to look at what TD Moultrie did last year, he had 21 tackles, 22 hurries, 7 hits on the quarterback, and 5 sacks. So even with all the good things that Derek Hall and Eku Leota did, there were other guys from that position who contributed. So to replace that production, there's an amazing opportunity for Dylan Brooks this upcoming season. So he's going to have his opportunities for sure. One of the things I do want to ask you guys is, when we look towards the future for this position, how concerned are we about what needs to be replaced in terms of production? Obviously, Dylan Brooks appears to be our edge rusher of the future by virtue of him being the only one coming back next year. But what are your thoughts on what this coaching staff is either trying to do? I think they did bring in someone on a visit. I think I can't think of the guy's name from UCLA, but how important is the upcoming recruiting cycle in 2023 and beyond in terms of finding guys to fill this position? Because this has been kind of a committee position. And so how does this bode for the future in terms of what this coaching staff is looking for versus who they can get? I'll start with you, Ike.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be crucial to be able to do that. But what we've always talked about and what is evident is the case when you look over on the offensive side. It's going to be productivity on the field that's going to determine whether or not some of these young, talented players want to come play here. And I think that this defense has proven over and over again, regardless of who the coordinator is, for some reason we can get the defense right? Like we've been able to find good defensive talent, and we've been able to reload there. If we can put up another year of stalwart defense and we can start to become more menacing, because right now, and I forgive me if I throw the previous defensive coordinator in the same pile as last year's defensive coordinator. We were bend but don't break really for like 5 or 6 years now. It wasn't just last year. I know it looked different in how we were approaching it because, again, you don't have the two defensive monsters up there on the defensive line and Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson. You see us come back to earth a little bit when we don't have those two guys up front. But even with them and in the year minus them, bend but don't break defense had been what we were, right? We weren't giving up a lot of points because we were keeping people out of the end zone and giving up field goals, but people were moving the ball on us, right? We want to see everybody at Auburn, of course, wants to look and see a Georgia, last year's Georgia on defense, right? Where just nobody's able to score points on them. I think we can move in that direction with the defensive rotation that we can have up front with the talent that we're bringing in the defensive backfield. But if we are able to do that this year, then those young players or those transfer players are going to be like, yo, I got to go play there. If I want to get to the league, that's where I need to go. And we're going to see, we talk about people not getting drafted. We'll see people get drafted off of this defense next year. Next year's draft will have defensive players in it from Auburn. If we do what we're supposed to do this season, as far as the defense being able to be sound and doing what they're being asked to do, we will see people come off the draft board from Auburn, which will pay dividends in recruiting and in the transfer portal.
Right.
How likely do you see it be the portal being for this position? Because I think one of the issues for the guy from UCLA is I think he had one more year of eligibility remaining. So he wanted an opportunity to play. He didn't really want to share snaps behind Akuliota and Derek Hall, which is understandable.
Right.
But with those guys moving on, how much easier would it be to grab someone to Ike's point, given the production that they've witnessed the past few years from that position?
Yeah, and that's really the thing, is the cupboard will be borderline empty. And here are two spots that are going to be vacated. I expect Dylan Brooks to start looking like the monster he is this current season. So we're going to say, hey, you know what? You look like you want to be productive. You look like you have the skill set we're looking for, the attitude we're looking for. So we got a monster on one side. Come be on the other side. Rack it up. Get those snaps. Get those sacks. Get those numbers up. Get on the draft boards early here in your freshman year. Or if it's another transfer that we can bring in your sophomore, junior year, or if it's a transfer that is more seasoned, say he's somebody who's entering his last season of eligibility, come in here, play on the opposite side of this monster we got over here, and get your numbers up and get to the NFL. And by getting Derek Hall, Akuliota into the draft in the first 3 to 4 rounds, now we've got something to work with, along with working on the opposite side of a monster in Dylan Brooks. And that's a much better proposition than coming in to play behind a couple of guys. If you're in the situation with that UCLA D end, listen, man, I need snaps. I need tape. And it's got to be right now. And we've got people in here who have been playing by the coach's rules and acclimate to the system for a while. You're not going to come in here and jump them. So you'd have to play nice, rotate. And I understand, again, like you said, that makes total sense for your career, for what you want to do. You don't want to be in the situation of, who was a DB we got last year from West Virginia? He didn't even see the field.
Trayshawn Miller.
Yeah, Miller. It's like that. I mean, that's unfortunate. I don't know why he didn't play, but he came here to show out for 1 year and go off to the league. And I understand why, especially with the situation with Trayshawn just happened. Hey, you don't know me. I'm not necessarily your guy. You love your guys. Your guys are productive. So I'm going to sit behind them. No thanks. I'm ready to get out of here. So next year it gets easier. Next year it's a much easier sell. And if we can look like the defense that we think we can look like this year, then we get those antenna up on all these prospects in our area, in our region, that we've been targeting for the last year and a half, more than likely. And that is, hey, I know we changed hands. I know you knew Steele or you knew T. Will. Give us a shot in here, because we're still doing work.
James Sawyer asked a question. Appreciate the question here. Speaking of edge, does Cam Riley get a look at edge, guys? What do you think about the possibility of that?
There's quite a few people in our linebacker room who could possibly be edge defenders. They've got the size to be able to do it. So I think that that's a possibility. I won't count any of it out. But I honestly do not have the first clue what this defensive stat, like, I don't know much about Jimmy Brumbaugh and what his philosophy is up front. I definitely don't know what kind of philosophy Jeff Schmedding is going to bring to the defense and what he looks like, what he looks for in a prototypical guy along the edge. So it's hard for me to make that determination without seeing some game footage of what they do with people. But I do think that we are in for some surprises. If the 8A footage is anything, I think that there'll be some people just moving around all over the place that we wouldn't expect. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they could do. But yeah, I think Cam Riley could possibly play some edge for us. Just because formationally, we're going to be doing some different stuff. I expect to see, 2 linebacker sets and, dime, or, we're going to be going nickel. Like, I just expect us to do a lot of stuff, bare front stuff. We're just going to do a lot of different things. And so a lot of guys are going to get an opportunity to do a lot of a variety of ways to impact on the defensive line and linebacker position.
So that was my curiosity, Ike. Without seeing any games under the new defensive coordinator, how much different do you anticipate Schmedding to be than Mason? I mean, it could be a continuation of what was already said. It could have been Auburn's defense that they were putting together.
Yeah.
But there's something in me that says we're going to see a few different wrinkles because Schmedding has his own personality of how he wants to do certain things. So
the 8A defense looked different, man. I haven't done any breakdowns on that, and maybe that's something that we'll get into soon, talking about the defensive stuff on during 8A. So be on the lookout for that, members, patrons. I told you I'm not warning y'all no more. Be on the lookout for us doing some stuff about the defense. But yeah, I think it's going to be different just because you can't change coordinators, position coaches, because people, regardless of you're having similar systems, you teach it philosophically different. You call plays different because you have a different mindset about how aggressive you want to be in certain scenarios. It's going to look different because it's a different person who's in charge. Kyle Shanahan doesn't call plays like his dad did. They're running similar. I mean, they're running essentially the same system. They do not call plays the same. It's just the way that it is. A lot of the defensive guys that came from that Seattle defense went on to be coaches elsewhere. Similar stuff, but they're going to add their wrinkles. They're going to do something that, hey man, if I was coaching, I would have. Going to see all of that this year from Jeff Schmedding. If that was me, I would have, because he ultimately doesn't get to make that call. He gets to make a suggestion. He gets to help with the game plan, but he doesn't get to make the call in the game. Right.
Yeah,
and so you're going to see all of the calls that he would have made in those scenarios. Now, whether that's good, whether it's better or worse, that's yet to be determined. It will be different though.
I'll be interested to see how much the pass rush looks different in general. Lots of complainers about us sitting back in coverage last year. When I'm not sure how much I agree. Some of the quarterbacks that we went up against were quick trigger guys like Will Rogers, type that if you rush them, they find the guy and they make you pay, and they're deadly accurate. So it felt like damned if you do, damned if you don't against some of the QBs that we faced at times last year. Because by the time we got to the Iron Bowl, everybody was like, why weren't we doing that all year?
Right.
But that tactic would not have
Bama's
worked.
offensive line was just awful though, so it's a lot easier to look good against an awful offensive line. So
the worst they've had in like 15 years in terms of pass protection. So if we had done that versus some other teams, we would have gotten torched. So there was some speculation that Schmedding called the Iron Bowl or whatever defensively. I know that rumor was floating around there. So I don't know how true that was. But what I do know is you're going to get to find out what kind of defense he calls pretty early on in the season. Right. And I'll just be interested to see if they take the same tactic about sitting back in coverage or actually trying to get after the quarterback more often with the guys that we have.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to be a defensive coordinator who likes to bring pressure week after week, you're going to have to get really creative, because what ends up happening is you become very predictable in your pressure. And we saw that a lot under Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele was not shy about bringing pressure, but it didn't guarantee that we weren't going to stop them, because we were getting beat in some areas.
And his blitzes weren't particularly creative. Like, again, I don't want to get into a bad Kevin Steele session, because I know people they feel like, oh my God, Kevin Steele was this. I mean, and he's solid. Kevin Steele is a great recruiter. And he brought in excellent talent. I just question whether or not Kevin Steele was a product of amazing talent up front, or if he was just this great scheme. And I just didn't see a lot of things scheme wise that made me say, man, you know what? Kevin Steele is amazing. Kevin Steele was able to get really good and talented people to come play in this defense. They played really hard for him. He made some good changes as far as like, okay, we're going to go the LSU game plan that they came in with. LSU had not seen that before. We changed up our entire defensive philosophy for LSU. Wonderful things he did in that LSU game just to show them something different. And you had the people to be able to take advantage of that sort of thing. So again, I'm not saying Kevin Steele. I think that there's room to critique people without saying that they're awful. Right. So I'm not saying Kevin Steele's awful. I'm saying he is not the guy y'all trying to make him out to be. Right. He's not leaps and bounds better than what we had last year with Mason. That's just not like the defense was good last year. But despite what everybody wants to think, we had a really good defense last year. We had piss poor offense last year.
Yeah, we left them hanging out to dry a lot.
Often. Often that defense was put in horrible situations.
And in fairness, they were left out to dry under Steele. If you want to put it,
2019. 2019.
Right. But again, the difference between that, and I'll keep saying it, is two complete monsters. It's hard, and so if we can cultivate those kind of monsters again, then your defense just automatically looks better. That's just kind of how it works.
Right.
Yeah. So, again, Kevin Steele, not saying he was not a good defensive coordinator. He is a great defensive coordinator. I just don't think he is so much better than Derek Mason, like everybody is trying to make it out to be. And I don't even think the statistics prove that. In a pass-happy league, yes, you're going to have more passes thrown against your team, all that kind. But look at how many points they surrendered, right? Look how well they were able to defend some of the better passing teams in the league. The Mississippi State second half of that game, I get it, fell apart. But if you're going to put that all on the defensive coordinator, I don't know. But anyway, again, I don't want to get into a lot of semantics about that. What I do want to say is I think that Jeff Schmedding is going to be different this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Agreed. Well, listen, it's that time, Ike. It's that time to give away the t-shirt. And in case you're wondering what t-shirt, it's the AU, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Appreciate you, Walt. Guys, you know what to do. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments if you want a chance to win a t-shirt. Because in these days of the War Report giveaway, Ike's no longer waiting for you. Nah. So if you want to enter the win, you best do it in the next few seconds, or you're going to be disappointed. Ike?
All right, let's get to it, man. We got things we got to do today. Let's get this drawing going. Who's going to win the t-shirt today? GWT2 Consulting Services is paying for a shirt for William Holman.
William,
are you
gotta
here?
Be present to win, though, Willie.
I only congratulate people who are here. So are you here, William? Let us know. Let us know. Please do that. Also, man, I already mentioned his name. We appreciate our sponsors. Walt has been a long-term supporter of the War Report, so we're honored that he'll be willing to help us be a sponsor for this giveaway. And we're always grateful for our sponsors. We're also grateful for another show sponsor, Rogue Shop.
This episode of the War Report is brought to you in part by Rogue Shop. Looking to reduce stress or improve your quality of sleep? Rogue Shop has you covered with a wide range of premium products, including gummies, bath salts, and oils. Go to rogueshop.com and use code RAPPORT when you check out. That way, they know we sent you. All right?
All right. we give away once a month. We give away some of the Rogue Shop product. Richard has been very gracious in giving us product to give away to you guys. So if you watch on Sundays or Wednesdays, you guys will actually have a chance once a month to get into a raffle for some Rogue Shop stuff.
Indeed. Really, caveman? William Gone Man.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Hey, that was good.
I haven't seen them yet, so we shall see. We will move on. We will definitely move on. Let's get into some of the questions you guys have posed throughout the show. Some of them I've addressed early on, but let's go ahead and get into them. Thomas Jones asks, are you guys aware of the one main thing holding Auburn back in the transfer portal is Auburn doesn't have a sports management degree or anything like that?
Yeah, Blackerby has talked about this on his show, that for an SEC school, not having a sports management degree is a problem because you need something that they can plausibly transfer over for. And this is a hard process. This is not an easy process, right? Like you have to find funding and you have to do all this stuff. And I think this is something ultimately that they need to get done. It's just difficult when the perception is you're only doing this for football.
All right.
Like, oh, we're creating this whole thing just so that we can get football players. I don't think the optics of that are particularly good. Given some of the stories that have come about Auburn's players in certain degrees in the past. So I expect them to get this done over the next couple of years. It's definitely gaining some steam in the media, but yes, I am aware of this. It's and it is a problem. So I think that there were a few kids that we did have to turn away just because we didn't have their major. So I'm sure that they raised the issue with the university, and they're gonna have to find a way to get this done. I think it's a legitimate major in this day and age.
Yeah,
I agree.
So it's not an illegitimate major. It's just we're reactive rather than proactive to this.
Yeah. Good point. Also want to point out, Stuart Donald asks, appreciate the super chat, man. Johnson, and I believe he may have been referring to Joseph, if I'm not mistaken. Joseph was a preseason all-conference pick at defensive end. He lined up 181 snaps at defensive end last year versus about 150 on the interior. Dude is versatile. So, hey.
So, yeah, he'll be doing both. Cool. Versatility is always a positive. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think to Ike's point, given what those guys want to do, play a lot of guys, do different things up front, that may definitely factor into why he's at Auburn anyway, because he can already do what the coaching staff is looking to do next year. So appreciate that. James Barnett wants to know, because Mike, you talked about it, B, you talked about it. We kind of talked around it, referring to the defensive line. Do you guys think this defense can be better, not than the defense last year, but 2019?
That's hard because we don't have a Derek Brown. But can we be?
We don't
better?
know that we don't have a Derek Brown.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's such a hard question to predict. Because did people see the 2019 defense before we had the 2019 defense? Like,
no.
These guys. It's going to be I think it's going to come down to pass rush this year in general. I mean, we had a really good defense. And can we help? We had Roger McCreary lock down his side of the field, but we also had safeties who gave up big plays at times and just, to their credit, in their defense, they were left on an island a lot. So I don't know. If we can be a little bit more assignment sound, I think that it can come close to being just a really good defense. It's really hard to compare defenses over eras because the players that they're going up against are different and the conditions are different. The schedule is different. It's really hard to compare one defense to another. These guys have a chance to be good.
This defense is different. And I'm curious to see how this defense looks in year 2, especially the secondary, in terms of learning the coverages. We were a work in progress last year in that regard. And so another year under its belt, I'm curious to see, to your point, Mike G, we played a lot of man press coverage. So that lends itself to guys getting beat over the top. So I think this defense can be good, really good. I'm curious to see how well we can generate pressure without having to blitz. And I think that's what made the 2019 defense so good, is that we didn't have to bring a lot of extra linebackers and cornerbacks and people to generate pressure. Brown and Davidson and those guys up front were doing a pretty good job of that on their own. And so if we can generate pressure without having to blitz guys, and then we can get creative on the back end, I think this defense can be really good. I'm not going to say better. I'm not going to say better than that team, because that was some special, one of a kind type of players we had on that team that made it that good. So I think it can be as good. All right. So a good friend of ours, Bryson Bridges, says, I just got here, and this has nothing to do with the show, but warm banana pudding or cold banana pudding?
You're trying to start something.
I'm going to do you one better. No banana pudding. Banana pudding is gross.
Whoa.
Bananas are gross.
Whoa.
Therefore, and thereon to hereby.
Hey, Bryson.
Banana pudding is gross.
Hey, Bryson, were you expecting that one?
What are we doing?
Trigger warning.
No banana pudding? Are you serious?
No
here?
banana pudding. Bananas
Banana
are disgusting.
pudding is amazing.
Banana is.
I don't get smoothies. You know why? Because bananas are in 90% of the smoothie recipes. You go to the store, it's like, can y'all make a smoothie without bananas? What's wrong with y'all?
Do you know that on the third day after a guy created Auburn football, he created a banana?
What are you?
Are you serious?
doing?
I seriously doubt that.
Yeah, just say you're a weirdo and let's move on.
Yo, what are we doing?
That went without saying.
Jump all the way out.
I'm gonna go with warm banana pudding. Definitely. I think it's hard. I'm torn.
Yeah, I'm torn too, because
it's a really hard question.
I could do either.
Yeah, I mean, so like,
hey, B,
I don't really like it.
Let's pull up comments of people calling you weirdos. Now that you found your buddy who agreed with you.
LT.
B will enter the transfer.
Hey,
appreciate that game, man.
I'm gonna spend the weekend there and then come back here.
I'm
gonna spend the weekend there and then come back here. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, man.
No, I'm not. If there's the only person I want to be less of a bum than is Mike. That's it. That's my life goal. Be less of a bum.
No
than Mike.
wonder you are such an authority on bums, because it takes one to know one. What are you doing here, sir?
You know what? Along those lines, banana pudding gets way more credit than it deserves. You know who's doing the heavy lifting in that dessert? The sugar. Whatever else goes into it, I don't know. It's not that banana pudding is good. It's that everything around the bananas is good. It's not really that good. Vis-a-vis a certain Timothy Fisher. You know what I'm saying? Bananas are gross.
B, I don't know.
I don't even want to talk about this no more.
I don't know how much I can trust you on takes.
You jumped all the way out.
I don't know about that.
I've been the same. I've thought this my entire life. I don't know why y'all trusted me before. Don't stop trusting me now. Hey,
no, I don't trust your dessert choices. I don't know what you're doing with your life. Your life outside of that ain't got nothing to do with it.
But seriously, I think I can do both. I think I can do both, because I'll just go, like, after the banana pudding been sitting the day or so, I can just go in the refrigerator and grab it. And
banana pudding is amazing. I don't know.
I can do it cold, warm. It's
disgusting.
I'm multiple like this defense. I think I can warm or cold. It don't matter to me. It really doesn't.
Go ahead. Hold on. Mike Hicks came back to agree with me, kind of, on bananas, but not the pudding. There's your one episode profanity. Our monetaries.
Chris says, I signed up for a patron. Does it take some time for my name to be in green?
I don't know the answer to how long it takes, but I do see you on the list here as a patron member joining today. So thank you for that. But
it should.
It should do it immediately, right? But we didn't. Did we see a notification?
I didn't see a notification pop up when he signed up. I don't think.
I did. I saw it.
Okay. All right. Well, you in there. Unless you like signed up and then you canceled immediately and it was like, get this green name out of here. So,
oh, yeah. Interesting.
No, you're in here. You're on the list. So,
all right. Got one here from Tom Reed. I'm worried about Bama and Georgia leaving us behind.
I mean, Bama and Georgia have been. I was about to say they've been at the top of the conference for the last I don't know how many years.
They can't leave us any further than they are already ahead. I think.
I mean, but like with all of that, so here's the thing that's crazy about that. We still, and I don't like claiming moral victories. We still were in a dogfight with Bama last year, and we've beaten them in the last few years, and we've basically beaten ourselves against Georgia. So they've got all of this talent. And they're supposed to be so much better than us, but they are not mopping us off the field.
Right.
And so leaving us behind in star ratings and recruiting, sure. And I know it feels a lot worse for Auburn fans with Georgia winning a title last year, but I don't think that we're so far behind them, man. Like, again, I get the recruiting rankings don't make it look that way. But I think we're going to have something to say about that in the fall, man. So we'll see.
I guess the focus should be not so much about Bama and Georgia is just what is Auburn doing now? Like, what is our coaching staff and what is his vision for Auburn? What is he doing? These players are buying in. They're believing. Like, to me, I think we got to focus on Auburn. Mm-hmm. And I think that begins to take care of itself moving forward. We can worry about our opponents and what they are doing. Bama's not going anywhere. Georgia's not going anywhere, but what we can do is become significantly better in terms of the product we're putting on the field. Winning games we should.
We talked a little bit about this during our interview with Coach Harsin. So we talked about recruiting. It's something that we covered. So when you watch that interview, he will give you some perspective a little bit on what their strategy is in terms of recruiting, because that's really what it boils down to. They left us behind in recruiting. But they left like the whole country behind in recruiting. Those two schools have been heads and tails above just about 98% of all the other schools in terms of the type of talent that they're bringing in. And
except Texas A&M, you got to make sure you put that up there, Jimbo. Good job.
And their talent evaluation has been really good as well too. I mean, I just feel like they're not missing, and then when they do miss, they had enough hits behind that you just don't really see those kids, may transfer out of the program and do well someplace else, or, every once in a while they get it wrong, but it's really just recruiting. We were getting outspent about $2 to 1 in recruiting under Gus. Bama and Georgia were up near $3 million a year spent on recruiting, and Auburn was just under $1 million. So it was there was a gap there, and they spend more time recruiting nationally, while still focusing on the regional talent. This is supposed to be one of the best high school classes in Alabama high school history coming out of the state this year. And we talked about this with Coach Harsin, like, hey man, like, what's your plan to get in on some of this, what we're producing in state in your own backyard? We've been losing the backyard fight for a while. So that didn't start under Harsin, but he definitely is going to have to find a way to start winning that fight, because it's hard to bring in consistent talent when you're not recruiting, across the street or down the road.
Right.
In one of the most talent-rich states in the country when it comes to high school football. So, in places like kids out of Phoenix City, literally 30 minutes away, Auburn should be in their top 5 every time.
Yeah. Right.
There's no way. There's no way Tuscaloosa, 2.5 hours away, should be in their top 5, but not Auburn.
Or Clemson.
Clemson is snatching kids out of Phoenix City.
Yeah.
Insane. So he's got to solve that issue. And, this has been public. This wasn't part of the interview, but when we were trying to get this interview scheduled, one of the roadblocks we had was just finding a hole in his schedule because he was out recruiting. Every time I checked in, coach is here, coach is there. Coach will be back in town for like 12 hours and then he's gone. This man has been recruiting his ass off. So they've just got to, the product on the field will ultimately determine if recruits buy in, and you couple that with maybe a better NIL structure that the community develops, and he'll probably have a chance. But we've got to figure out how to recruit in state, and the money. I don't think the money means as much in this conversation as a lot of people think that it does. I get it. It pushed Texas A&M's class over the top for sure. They took advantage of NIL, but you got to be able to coach and develop, and you got to be able to win on the field. So maybe you'll find some kids that want to get paid a bunch of money and go out there and look like a loser, but ultimately, what NIL is going to do is it's going to cause some other problems for a lot of these coaches bringing in this talent. The motivation is not going to be the same for a lot of these kids. You're going to get a lot of these NIL kids, and they're going to come in and they're going to be distracted by their riches, unfocused. And you can have the talent, but meanwhile, you may get beat by teams that just outwork you because they're actually focusing on playing. Mm-hmm. These coaches have there's a new aspect to their job now with NIL that they're going to have to be focused. And I think coach said this to us off camera. I don't think it was part of the interview. So forgive me if I spoil it, but essentially he said part of his concern with NIL was you suddenly have all these people coming into your players' lives. And the better coaches, they're very protective of those relationships with their players.
Right. Yeah, I think that was off camera.
That was off camera. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was off camera. But he said, you got the vultures come in.
Yeah.
And we have to, as a coaching staff, we have to do extra work to make sure that kids just don't get taken advantage of. Mm-hmm.
He was saying like that's why it's so important to make good relationships with their family, because their family because they're going to be the ones that are closer to that sphere of influence. Like coaches can only do so much. He's like, yeah, we've got to make sure we're getting people who are quality kids of character, so that now when this stuff gets introduced, they don't take their focus off of what really matters. Yeah. He's like, none of that other stuff matters if you can't play ball, right? Like it's like you got to come in and play ball first. Like that all that stuff goes away if you don't ball out.
Yeah, if your dream is to play at the next level, you cannot afford to get distracted by NIL money.
Right.
You just can't, because it's going to be short-lived, and it's only going to be as good as the 4 years that you're in college, when you have a chance at the next level in 4 years to make generational money.
Right.
Money that'll last. Like, I mean, I know football players who play 5 years in the league, probably never started it down, and they're leaving the NFL set for life. Just on the backs of the league minimum, or just above that, or some like one of the lower contracts, but they're still making millions.
Yeah.
Not to mention the benefits. The retirement is insane. Mm-hmm. NFL retirement, for every $1 you contribute to your 401k, they put in $2. If you're an NFL player, even at the lowest level, you max that out every year. Even as a bench player, in 10 years, you have a fortune waiting on you. They get to draw on their retirement early because their life expectancy is lower than most people due to all the hits. And there's just so many things, but I thought that was very profound thing that he said about, now we have to worry about another sphere of influence coming in and distracting our players in their ear, telling them to do this, do that, because now you have NIL. If you're doing NIL right, you've got obligations. Mm-hmm. And he said this off camera as well too, but he said this in another interview with, I think it was at the Atlanta Auburn Athletic Club or something. But he said that the good side of it is that now you have players, when they're outside of practice and outside the classroom, doing productive things with their time, being little business people, rather than sitting around bored, getting in trouble.
Right. Yeah. You have more stuff that you need to do. So hopefully it doesn't give you the opportunity to go do knucklehead stuff, right? Because you're like, all right, well, I got to get up and I got to go da. It keeps them at least focused on something that is productive for their time, which is one of those things, I think, an unintended consequence that may be good for NFL teams is they have another evaluation point as to, okay, so now I actually know what this kid's going to do with money. Right? Like, I don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to get money and it's going to go to their head. We get a chance to see now. All right. You got a taste of money in college. What did you do with it then?
Right.
Oh, you were a good steward of your money. I can trust you to put money in your pocket now. So it actually helps with your evaluation process on how focused is this person on doing what they need to do between those four lines.
Like how much more attractive of an NFL process a prospect is Bryce Young now that he got a huge NIL deal and then went out and won the Heisman.
Right.
He looks really attractive to a lot of NFL teams right now. They're talking about him being the number 1 overall pick already.
Yeah. And if he does it again this season, then they're going to know it wasn't a fluke. He's just really that good.
Yeah. But for every Bryce Young, there will be 3 to 4 kids who have a very different story about the money that they got. And the coaches are hyper aware of this, and they want to help our players manage that process and be close enough to the families that they can work as a team to keep guys on track. And that is a perspective on this conversation that I have not heard talked about. I just thought it was very profound that he brought that up, and he talked about it from he sounded like a parent.
He is.
Yeah, for these kids, like he sounded like he not talking as a coach. It felt like he was talking as a parent.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, these are my guys, and now all of a sudden, these kids, really a lot of 18, 19-year-olds are going to have a lot of people throwing money at them. And we got to keep it on the up and up, and we have to protect the athlete to make sure they don't get taken advantage of.
Yeah, great.
I like that side of the conversation. So here's what it is.
Caveman Life Coach says, what do y'all think about the alleged 3 permanent opponents model the SEC is looking at for future scheduling?
As long as our 3rd permanent opponent ain't freaking whoever the hardest team is, like we already got the 2 toughest ones and LSU and Tech. Like we can our schedule get any tougher with another permanent opponent? That's
Vandy. I want the permanent 3rd one to be Vandy. Okay?
It'll be the Vandy. It'll be the freaking hardest version of Vandy probably if they put them on our schedule. All of a sudden, it's gonna be
James Franklin comes back.
I'm about to say it'd be James Franklin resurrected at Vandy or some crap, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
I like the pods, man. I think the pods, what it does is there was a little while where when Bama had first started going in 2008 and 9, they got their cross-divisional rotation was like Kentucky or Mizzou, and they were terrible every year. And I was like, how did they end up with those guys? But they got Georgia like one time over the span of about 5 years. Florida maybe one time over the span of about 5 years. I'm like, I am curious about this. How do y'all keep getting whoever? Vandy. I remember they got Vandy once or 2 times. I didn't like that they just seemed to kind of get softball lobbed that cross divisional rotational game. So at least this way, Georgia and Alabama, they're gonna have to meet some other teams at those other teams' places, not just these terrible teams that we know are going to be terrible. But listen, I don't know what Florida's going to have going in 4 years, but I know that you're going to see them at least every other year. So if there's a guy there who's generational, it's not beyond the pale that Florida can get a really, really good quarterback and be really competitive. So you know what? You're going to have to see him. He's going to be there at least 3 years. You're going to have to see him. You're going to have to see at least every really good player. If he's there long enough, you're going to have to see him no matter who you are. And it doesn't feel like much of a change for us because we're already running the hardest gauntlet hands down. So cool. Everybody else get in on this. Y'all see Georgia. Y'all see Bama. If you from the East and you don't see them a lot, let's make this a little more even. And at the very least, it helps to even out the SEC schedule. So it's not just us having the toughest schedule and everybody else kind of falling, below us. Like, no, everybody's going to have the toughest schedule. So the 2 teams that meet in the SEC championship game, we know we got the right 2 teams.
Thanks.
All right. Bankroll Blockade says, besides kick 6 in the 2013 Georgia game, what is your favorite Auburn game?
2010 Iron Bowl, hands down.
2010 Iron Bowl.
The comeback.
Yeah, the comeback has to be. It's my favorite. We went into Alabama, got down 24-0, I broke everything in my house, and then we came back.
It was an amazing
amazing.
comeback, man.
I mean,
they show it on SEC Network like a couple times a year, and I watch it every time I see it. That was an amazing comeback.
There were so many things in that game that the throw to Terrell Zachary. I'm not sure that it was a great throw. Like
it was a terrible throw.
It was underthrown. It was
underthrown play by the defensive back.
Yeah, he should have picked that honestly, but he played it wrong. And
Terrell Zachary, credit to him for like having the concentration to just take the hit, and then the dude fell off of him. He just kept running. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and even the first touchdown to Emory Blake. The DB swatted at his arm, and he was holding it out away from his body and held on to that ball.
Yeah.
There were so many things that happened in that game that if they don't happen, we probably lose. The punch out from behind on Mark Ingram, one of the best plays I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then the sack on Greg McElroy to end the half. They were driving in for a touchdown, and Nick Fairley sacked
and got the fumble
and recovered.
Yeah,
come on, man, the game had
that was one of the most amazing defensive plays I've seen for sure.
That game had everything.
What about you, Ike?
I was gonna mention 3 games. That was one of them. Of course, you can't not love the 2010 national championship.
I was thinking about that one.
Because we won the title. I mean, it was. We
won the title. What it meant?
It was kind of a boring game, but
it wasn't a great game.
I mean, it had its moments though of like, with what's the
Michael Dyer.
The whether he was down or not situation. There were some moments in that game, but more so just because we won the title, I'm mentioning that one. For me personally, I was at the LSU game last year, and that was amazing for me because I was there, being able to watch that in person from the press box and watch LSU. So you have to think about. Let me put all of this in context for you. I worked in the suites at Jordan-Hare Stadium for 3 years, right? When I was in school at Auburn. So everybody who hosts the suite level, of course, they're students, right? Like everybody who works up there is staff of the university, your students, and you can't really cheer, right? You're just kind of there watching the game. But of course you have this vested interest because it's your home team playing, right? It was so fun to break the streak in Baton Rouge down in Death Valley and watch their students that were working there look so depressed but not be able to react. That was wonderful for me. It was so great. Man. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah.
What's yours, B?
I got 2. I can't really pick. One is 07 Florida, at Florida. So we were their lone loss on their 06 schedule when they won the national championship. Tim Tebow had been pre-anointed to win the Heisman that year, which he did. But we had played our first 5 games at home, and I think they were hearkening back to that when they were talking about our schedule for 2022. We played our first 5 games at home under Tuberville that year, and we didn't look particularly impressive either. So we went on the road and everybody thought, oh, Florida's going to lambaste them. And boy, I tell you, Tuberville was so good for pulling these out of his hat.
Yeah, it was.
That they've got no shot.
Which Florida game was it?
07 at Florida.
Oh yeah,
I think Byron kicked Byron
it was
kicked
running around
the
the Gator Chomp.
Yeah, I mean because even Auburn fans, we were like,
we were kind of Tubbs was kind of in battle too. I think we was struggling going into that game.
I want to say that game, he pulled the whole O-line.
I think that was the game.
I think he did
because they had been underperforming.
They had been underperforming, and they put in a
Lee Zimba,
a freshman O-line across the board.
Yeah,
and those guys went out there and killed it.
I
couldn't remember if that was 06 or 07, but it was one of them where Dirk Florida. I think we were at Florida.
I think it was 07.
It was 07.
07, yeah, there had to be. They pulled the whole O-line in that game for underperforming, and it worked out. So,
yeah. So that was one of them. Another one was the
01 Florida game too was pretty epic. So that was that was my freshman year, and Damon Duval bent a field goal in from 45 yards out to beat number 1 Florida. That was the only home game my freshman year I didn't go to. I didn't go to that game. I forgot why I didn't go, but I remember watching on TV, and that was the last time. Fun fact: that was the last time Auburn rushed the field and took down the goalpost. That was the very last time.
Well, that's the last time we rushed the field in kick six game.
Kick six, yeah, and took down the goalpost.
It's the last time the goalpost came down for sure.
Another fun fact: in 2003, after we lost to Georgia Tech, they tore down their goalpost and tried to throw it off the side of the stadium.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible to watch. I was like, man, they really happy about this win against us. They tore it down and tried to throw it in the parking lot.
So
how long? B, you had a second game, B?
Oh yeah, 2004 at Tennessee. It was the first game where it was like, okay, we're going on the road. We have been looking good early. Of course, we ended up undefeated. But it was like, okay, are we really legit? And we steamrolled Tennessee.
Four interceptions by Junior Rosegreen in that game.
Lee Corso picked Auburn, and they gave him the night off.
Yeah. I remember Ronnie Brown, the first touchdown that Auburn scored that game. Ronnie Brown just steamrolled the dude.
Beautiful roll.
And then Flex going when he got up in the end zone, I was like, oh my God, we are really incredible this year. That's it. We are this good. That's an amazing feeling. When you don't know if you're gonna be good. It's kind of the Auburn thing where 2010 with Cam, it's like, man, I don't know, he's supposed to be pretty good. And then about 2 games in, you're like, oh wait, no, we might be phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's an incredible feeling to be better than you think you are, and better than everybody else thinks you are. It's amazing.
I went away from the obvious ones. Any game from 2010 that was memorable, and I got 3 games as well. I go back and forth. This is the first one that I was thinking of, the LSU game. That's the game when we talked to, was it Courtney Taylor? We talked about that throw that he made, that catch, but then also the throw J. Cam made before on that 4th down to extend that drive. Amazing game there, even though it was a low scoring affair. The game also that year to me was the Auburn Georgia game when it was a top 10 matchup and we steamrolled Georgia at our home field. That's the last time I think we beat Georgia dominantly like that. I think. The hit by Junior Rosegreen. You won't see hits like that ever again. And the third game was the following year, and not Bryant Denny. No, I think it was at Auburn when we sacked. Was it Brody? We sacked Brody almost 10 times or something like that. That was an amazing
Stanley
game.
McClover went crazy that game. I remember that.
Yeah. So those are my 3 that I enjoyed a lot. Because Banner was
Blake,
talking
that's
so
a good
much
one
trash.
too, bro. The 2002 Iron Bowl with Trey.
Yeah, no Ronnie,
that's
no
a good
Cadillac.
one.
No Ronnie, no Cadillac. He ran for 126 yards in that game.
Yeah, man. So
we spoke Tuberville. Yeah, I don't know if y'all remember, but Tuberville had a nasty habit of stunning on people by smoking cigars. And I'll never forget that I came off the scoreboard with my camera and I was trying to get some extra footage of the players celebrating. And he looked at another coach and he was like, light him up. Everybody busted out their cigar. And our media relations lady, Meredith, rest in peace, Meredith, she was running around and she was like, put about this a media relations nightmare. Yeah, they were not shy about that at all. They weren't. My car got mummified by toilet paper. I left an orange and blue shaker in the back of the window, and it was not pretty when I came out. But that was a good one.
Walt trolling you, Mike, says Phoenix City has got no talent. Better be getting those boys from Opelika. That was for you, sir.
That's funny. I'm not really that offended by that because I'm not a big Phoenix City person, although I did go to high school there. I don't know. Walt's trolling, but they've got talent down there.
For sure. Yeah.
They've got talent down there. And prior to Patrick Nix, they were still a premier producer of talent in state. Every year there was some big D1 kid that was coming out of there. And Phoenix City has been a good spot. I don't know if they're still trending that direction.
They still got some good talent. Yeah,
but yeah, they're in the conversation. I think every year for state championship. They got busted up against
Thompson.
Yeah, in the state championship. Like, ooh, yeah. I think Caleb Nix. He had a pretty awful game.
Thompson's a powerhouse though, and have been for quite some time. So. James Buckley says punt Bama punt 1972 Iron Bowl game. That's a memorable one as well for sure.
I mean, I wasn't there to see that one though. Like I can see the replay. I wasn't there to see that one. So
it hits a little different when you wasn't around.
Yeah,
I get it. Wow. John Brennan says AU is making recruiting and alumni fan relations a priority. Just Harsin was coming to Columbus, Georgia to speak. Now it's Harsin, Pearl, Andy Burcham, the new Prez, and Cole Kublik.
Yeah, they get it. I'm telling you, they get it.
Yeah.
They really get it. And in turn, what I hope is that now that they're being a little bit more open from a public relations standpoint, that people are fair in how they report.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I hope that people are fair in how they report. And you wanted it. Now he's talking. And I still think that we got probably the most unique interview than I've seen him do just yet. But there was just a lot of narratives out here about this coach that weren't right. And they own why some of those narratives were out there, but they are working very hard. Like I'll tell you what, when you're trying to schedule an interview with the head coach at Auburn, you learn a lot about his schedule. And I got real-time updates about where he was at for like a month. And this man was working. He could not have been in his house more than 2 seconds in the last 30 days. So they're working really hard. I hope to see that payoff.
Yeah, indeed. Ben Bloodworth says, "Why is nobody saying Mississippi State 2008? That was a 3-2 game."
Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be the 3-2 baseball game.
A
field goal and a safety.
Pass, Ben, on that one. I'm gonna have to pass on that one. Ike, I'm gonna cue you up for this one, man. Locked in for this Harsin interview. Can't wait till we get that film breakdown too. Let the people know what's coming. Appreciate that, DeMario, but let the people know what they should expect at least this week, Ike.
Yeah, you can expect us to do wonderful things on your YouTubes. You're going to get an interview from Coach Bryan Harsin this week from the War Report. He sat down with us, a 2-part interview coming for you, as well as a film breakdown. But in order to see that starting tomorrow, you have to be a member. Members get the early access to the interview. Patrons will get access to that film breakdown. So if you are a patron, you'll have all 3 of those waiting for you when you wake up in the morning. It's going to be like Christmas. Courtesy of the War Report. Lee County Humane Society, we're doing that. And I didn't forget about the drawing, ladies and gentlemen. We will get to that drawing here in just a minute. But Lee County Humane Society is what we're doing for our charitable aspect. So if you want to hit the link in the About section, you can go hit that GoFundMe link there. 50 cents on every dollar goes towards them. We are going to pull for this drawing here for this AU t-shirt here in just a minute. So stay tuned. You got a little time to get your weight ups in the comment section if you still want to be a part of that drawing. The War Report is now the Auburn Express on all of your podcast places. So make sure you lock in with us there if you want to get your on-the-go audio versions of what we got going on here on YouTube, as well as some podcast exclusive content that we will be dropping for you on there. Yeah.
It's time. Let's do it.
Get to drawing number 2. Sorry, William. You weren't here. Sad for you, Ro. But we are giving away this t-shirt to Big Gap.
Yeah. Wait, Big Gap been a winner before, I think.
Has Big Gap won already? Big Gap, let us know what's up, man.
Big Gap has won something.
Let us know what's up. If you are still here, let us know. And if we need to pull again, we will do that. And we'll get back in here and let somebody win this AU t-shirt, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Big Gap, where you at? GP, are you with me? It's BG, but still, whatever.
Same thing.
Close enough.
That's funny.
I don't see him yet, but if he is here, We're gonna make sure he gets that shirt. Look, man, y'all got to stick around with us, man. I know it's a long time.
There you go.
Boom.
I
Yes.
never win. Ha! You
Well,
won
you won
today.
today. You won today. So in order to claim your prize, you just need to hit us up on email. We need your address and your shirt size. We will get that to you, and make sure that you tell everybody that Walt Taylor is amazing, even though he's from Opelika. See, I just throwing shade back for no reason because I didn't go to either one of those schools. But yeah, man, GWT2 Consulting Services is the one that you thank for that. If you didn't get a chance to win something today, then you can always go and support us in the merch store, thewarreport.com. Hit the catalog button to be able to see all of the things that we have available. Purchase your own merch and, rock and support the War Report wherever you are out there. Make a Bama fan mad.
Indeed. Guys, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. You already know what to do, guys. Share this video on social media and please use the hashtag. You already know what it is. Like this video. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe to us on YouTube. Go out there and give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, guys. We greatly appreciate it. And if you're a TikToker, TW Rapport is the place for you. That's it for now, guys, but we have more on the way as we have told you. But until then, we want you to enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.